This is a meeting of the Consolidated Commission on Utilities, dealing with GWA working session, GWA matters. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Chaco, Commissioner Sanchez, and Commissioner Martinez. And Miguel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 5 issues for decision that we're going to present to you today. First is Resolution 22, FY 2022, and this is in relation to additional funding required for the Tumon number 2 Hyundai and Challenge number 2 Reservoir construction contract. These are sensors, boxes, and monitoring panels associated with that work.
Okay.
Good project.
So the total cost that has been negotiated with the contractor for the change order is about $554,000, and we are seeking a contingency in the amount of $110,000 for a total of $665,820 in additional funding for this contract. We do anticipate the work to be completed by the end of the year, and we do have existing bond funds available to cover the additional cost. For water system improvements, the reservoirs PW0911 and EE0909, which is SCADA improvements.
Okay. Do you need to go back to the PUC for this? No.
No,
Okay.
this is
Any
a
questions?
court order project.
Good project.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Next.
Moving on, Resolution 23 FY 2022. I'm going to apologize in advance in my rush to get this on the agenda. I drafted the resolution, and there are a lot of typos that will be corrected for the next for the board meeting.
Okay.
But if you recall, Dr. Jensen from Weary and I and members of the USGS briefed the commission at a work session dedicated to this One Guam Water Resource Information Program. At that time, we kind of went over the scope and the structure of that program and its intent to fulfill the sustainment and maintenance of the new wells that we're putting in for the monitoring of the Northern Guam Lands Aquifer. So this resolution seeks to obtain approval to execute the required memoranda of agreement between GWA and the Navy in relation to that One Guam Water Resource Information Program, and then also an MOA between GWA and WERI and USGS for the administration of that Water Resource Information Program. In the 2016 MOU, the One Guam MOU that was originally done in 2010 and then renewed in 2016, you might recall that there are provisions in there relating to cooperation between GWA and DoD to enhance monitoring and management of the NGLA in order to mitigate the impacts to water resources and to share access and responsibilities for the maintenance and monitoring of these systems. You also know that we received DoD grant funding to conduct several projects, one of which is the expansion of this monitoring system. We are nearing completion of the installation of the new wells, 7 new wells, and we have already completed 12 of the 13 existing well rehabilitations. So we anticipate we'll be done with that by the end of the fiscal year, and so we want to get this MOU in place to cover the work that is required after that. Our grant conditions require that we maintain and sustain the assets that the grants were used to construct for their anticipated lifespan. So this is a long-term agreement, or it's intended to cover that long-term maintenance and sustainment. So there are 2 memorandum of agreement which outline this program and then also outline how it's going to be funded. And so the intent is that the memorandum provides for both DoD and Government of Guam to share in the cost of this, which has not necessarily happened before. So the individual maintenance of the wells will fall on whoever the property owner is, where those wells are located. So we're splitting the cost of that. And then the other program costs for the Water Resource Information Program are going to be allocated based on the withdrawal rates from the aquifer. And that is a formula that has been worked on and agreed to between GWA and the Navy based on EPA permitted withdrawal rates for each of the wells in the aquifer. So the cost sharing is also outlined in our MOA with the Navy, and then the details of Gov Guam's portion is outlined in the MOA between GWA and WERI and USGS. The estimated costs for the program are a little over, in total, a little over $1 million a year, split between both entities, DoD and Gov Guam. And that split is about 53, 47%, 53 Gov Guam, 47% DoD. And so on the Gov Guam side, WERI's normal source of funding to cover some of this comes from legislative appropriations. And so GWA will kind of act as a backstop. The legislative appropriations will proceed based on their normal budget requests, and then if there is a shortfall in the anticipated budget for the year, then the intent is that GWA will provide some additional funding in order to keep the program going. I'd like to point out on page 41 of the board books, you'll see the components that One Guam Water Resource Information Program, and it describes it's a graphic that describes the monitoring infrastructure, the data collection mechanisms, the data management activities, and then the analysis and reporting that happens, as well as the scientific investigations that happen. And so all of the data goes into this program at each various level, and then the information that is shared includes the raw data, the databases and websites that are maintained by WIRI and USGS, the annual reports that are done regularly, and then special advisory papers and technical reports that we request to help us manage the water resources. That is the shared information, and that's the benefit of what GWA is getting for its investment in the system and in the data collection and analysis program that follows once the system is complete and in place. And then on page 44, this is essentially the list of deliverables that we will benefit from, and it includes annual professional presentations and workshops for the staff here at GWA in engineering and operations, and also guidance with the water resource management, and any special investigations that we might require each year as issues come up.
Any questions? Commissioner Taco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Miguel, can you, the resolution issues for decision, page 2 shows the GWA fund. It's the funding source is GWA funds and DOD funds.
Yes.
And you had mentioned legislative appropriation, so is that through WIRI, and then
Yes.
GWA is administering the funds?
No. So, for the purposes of the resolution, the GWA's involvement would be to contribute funds, and DOD will also contribute funds. On GWA side, the WIRI will administer any funds that they receive through the legislative process.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but as part of this, also included in the back of the Memorandum of Agreement with WIRI and USGS is the anticipated budgeting schedule. And so they will prepare the annual program budget, which everybody agrees to, including DOD. And then on that annual budget basis, then they submit for GovCom's share to the legislature. And then the legislature appropriates. And then if there's a gap there, that's the only time that our funding comes into play. I guess
Any other questions?
it's an incomplete description. I should have included the legislative
Yeah, and
funds.
so there may be a small portion, just CIP that you guys internally fund, but potentially.
Not, at this point, it won't be CIP.
Okay, it would be.
It could be operational.
Operational costs,
Yeah.
okay. And so will you have that in your next budget round? Will you just basically kind of come up with a forecasted amount just in case that you needed to access that?
Yeah, our ability to forecast will get better once we go through a
For
couple
sure.
years of the program, right? But we know, for example, in 2022, they got everything that they needed, so there was no supplemental funding required, right?
Okay.
So hopefully that happens again next year. But we do have the total, kind of a budget breakdown of the total annual cost, which I mentioned, a little over $1 million.
Okay.
Any questions? I have a question. Currently, we're doing this, right? Currently? Now you're formally putting together the program. Because
So-
in the past, you have done things to monitor our wells, and you've helped WIRI out.
Yes,
And the
we've done-
Navy has monitored its wells.
So USGS and WIRI have monitored the deep NGLA wells, but the Navy, I don't believe, has contributed to that. They have contributed to other parts of USGS's monitoring of water resources island-wide, most significantly work that's required for the Fena watershed and so on and so forth, rain gauges and stream gauges, that kind of thing. That's outside of was outside of the NGLA effort.
Right.
Now, all of that is being kind of wrapped into this program, therefore the cost split. But as
Okay.
part of that cost split, DOD is now also
Taking care of
the cost of their portion of the Northern Guam Lands Aquifer.
So what we're doing basically is all the water resources on the island for drinking purposes are now being put together, and we're all monitoring it together.
Correct.
So the reports will go to all parties?
Yes,
Which is a good thing, because we didn't know what they were doing before, and they didn't know necessarily what we were doing.
right.
And so this is a good thing, because then it's one picture for the water resources for the island.
Right.
I like that.
And this is,
And-
meets the stated objectives of the 2016 MOU with respect to protecting the Northern Guam Lands Aquifer and jointly managing its use.
And it also protects surface water.
Yes.
It brings in the surface water. So UGAM also is involved in this.
For
Will
the
be?
southern rain gauges and stream gauges, yes.
Yeah. Like
I-
FEMA.
yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Sanchez.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, Miguel, this is good, and I'm assuming passage Tuesday, but I think this would be a great topic for our ratepayers, you know, how in your monthly billing, to think about some outreach, you know, because this is, as the chairman is pointing out, this is really a concerted effort to protect our water resources, not both north and south, right? And we're formalizing it, and we all recognize we have a common interest in that aquifer. And it's a great example of partnering with everyone that has a stake in it, and then to the benefit of all of our ratepayers. So, assuming we pass this on Tuesday, so you can formalize this, this would be a great topic for your team to do outreach and let our public know that how much we value and all the players value the protection of the water resources. So, it's a great project. As the chairman points out, we've been collaborating on this for a long time, especially with Weary and our side, and now we're getting the military involved. And you're looking; these are investments in both the northern resources and the southern resources, the river resources, and it's a good story. It's a good story to tell our ratepayers. This is going on. This is where some of your money is going to make sure that we always have fresh, safe drinking water and protect the aquifer and the river resources. You just have to look around the world and see where you've got places with no water, no rain, and you're talking about the United States. Lake Mead, we were just in Vegas a few months ago, and Lake Mead has got two different colors, one with the water and one with no water, and the drop is significant. And yet we have a wonderful resource here, as long as we keep raining, and so far so good. But the fact that everyone realizes how important it is to work together, because as I used to say in my ads, without water you don't have water. And this is an effort to actually make sure we protect this for our community. So I'm assuming passage next Tuesday, and then over the next few months, let our people know that there's a lot of work going on to protect our water.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, I will echo Commissioner Sanchez's thoughts, because this, let's put it this way. GWA is making changes by leaps and bounds, and the people don't understand that. They just think that as long as the water, turn on the tap and the water comes out, everybody's fine. And really looking at the water resources in one picture with the military, because we didn't know what they were doing. I mean, I remember when the military used to say, if you want a carabao, come get a carabao, because they were causing a problem around the Fina Lake area for the watershed. There were too many animals, they were waste and everything. So, we didn't know everything that they did because we didn't know. Now, the whole island gets a picture of its water. And that's an important thing. Okay, good. Any other questions? No? Moving on.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. The next issue for decision is resolution, it's a joint resolution, GPA resolution number FY 2022-24, GWA resolution number 24-FY 2022. This resolution seeks to create a series of positions for our customer service divisions to replace the existing ones. It will create a utility customer care representative 1, 2, and 3 position, as well as a utility customer care supervisor position. These positions will replace 2 positions, the first of which is a customer service representative and a customer service supervisor position. Both of these positions were created, the job standards and descriptions were created in 1980, so they're 42 years old. They're pretty much out of date to what's going on in the utilities today, and they need to be changed, and it's pretty urgent that we do that. One of the biggest changes that's occurring with this series is in the minimum experience and training area. So, for example, for the customer service representative, the minimum training and experience required today is 1 year of clerical experience involving public contact work and math computations. For the customer service supervisor, the minimum experience and training required is 1 year clerical experience involving public contact work and math computations, and 1 year of experience as a customer service representative. So those are the existing minimum standards. With these new positions for a utility customer care representative 1, it is required that they have 1 year of customer service representative experience and a high school diploma. For a representative 2, it's 2 years and a high school diploma. For a representative 3, it's 4 years of experience as a customer service rep is required. 2 of those have to be at a level 2 or higher, and a high school diploma. And for the supervisor level, it is 2 years as a CSR. 1 of those has to be at a CSR level 3 or higher and a bachelor's degree. So there's a big difference in the minimum standards and qualifications as we try to elevate the level of employees that we bring in when we recruit. In addition to fixing that, we also included components about how the modern day utility works and that it's more complex with respect to billing and consumption issues. We also have to deal with a lot of troubleshooting because of the AMI and AMR process in the billing cycle. So all of the descriptions and levels have been appropriately tasked in these new series of positions. And it also brings the utility together in more of a one utility approach. So now all of the positions for GPA and GWA are aligned, which is not the case currently, in addition to the pay scales. So the pay scales for each utility in those positions are not aligned, but with this new creation, they will be. And you can see on attachment E as to how much this will cost. There's no cost in creating the position, but there are 2 additional levels of customer service representative. So with the utility customer care representative 1 position, it actually comes in at a minimum base salary a little bit lower than the current customer service representative position. And then the level 2 and the level 3 go up based on the job evaluation points, which is basically the traditional way that it's priced out as far as the base salaries. And then the customer care supervisor position is coming in at the same base salary as it is right now. The other items that we are asking is for there'll be a reclassification audit of the current employees. The determination of those audit findings is not going to impact the current salaries of the employees adversely, so they'll stay where they're at, no matter what the outcome of the audit is. And then we're also asking for authorization for the general managers to remove the existing positions from the CQP listing.
Okay, just before we ask questions, this is a joint resolution, so GPA, did you want to add anything, or did he cover everything?
Chris summarized it.
Okay, so now questions. Commissioner Chaco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris, so how will you differentiate, there may not be the same job classifications throughout the industry as customer care rep 1, 2, or 3. So have you guys thought about how you would determine like a non-internal hire as to how you're going to classify them as customer service 1, 2, or 3 if they have prior customer service experience?
So I believe that's based on the minimum. So when the applications are done, they're evaluated by the HR department, and they look at their different positions that they've had. And usually I think the minimum qualifications for the level 3 is the 4 years, and 2 years at a level 3 or higher. So they'll score it out and make the determination that way. They have, if anybody wants to add from the HR department, if you want to talk about how that's done.
The reason.
John Raggy from GPA's HR. We would definitely look at the knowledge, abilities, and skills and evaluate if they don't meet the requirement A of what we are requiring. And then from there, we evaluate based off the duties and responsibilities they held before. And that's how we would equivalate it to what we're looking for.
So the minimum qualifications for like the customer service representative 3, right, is 2 years at customer service representative 2.
Correct.
So how, if you don't have an internal hire, what is going to be, how are you going to classify 2 years at customer service level 2? Is it just going to be 2 years of experience at being a customer service representative? Because that's, if your minimum is based on your own internal, I'm just curious as to how you evaluate an external applicant.
Sure. So on the 2 level, it's more on the proficient side. They're proficient to conduct it independently. So when we're looking at it, we're looking at, okay, are they doing their duties and responsibilities independently? Are they doing it on their own? From there, we would, look at, again, it doesn't have to be an exact job match. But based off the knowledge, abilities, and skills, we made it broad in the sense where we can apply something that's done in the States or another company such as Docomo or somewhere else customer service representatives lie.
Yeah, so I would just ask you to consider maybe refining that to kind of like what you said, kind of something that you're not going to have to be, focused in on that requirement of being a customer 2 representative for 2 years, right? I'm not sure you're going to find that throughout the industry.
No, I think in similar stuff that we've done for other positions, if it's an external hire, it's really dependent on what they put on their application as duties and responsibilities, and then the duties and responsibilities of the positions that they've held are compared against, for example, that's if the Series 2 years of experience in Series 2 is required, they're compared to those duties and responsibilities and equated that way. And then they're given either full credit or partial credit for the number of months that they held it. And, for example, if it's 75% credit for the number of months you held that position externally, applied to the total number, and then if it meets the 2 years, the 24 months, then they check that box and they get ranked that way.
Yeah, I think those are great responses, but so the minimum qualifications maybe should be something like similar to what you just explained,
Is equivalency included,
Yes.
right? Okay, all right.
Okay.
We'll take
Just
that on.
Tracy?
to add on to what GM Berdallo had said, for each of the job standards, each of the 4, it's very specific. It says minimum experience and training, and there are 2 listed, and the first is very utility specific, to speak to what Commissioner Lim Tiaco said regarding whether or not we have internal applicants. However, under B, which is the second one, it's any equivalent combination of experience and training which provides the minimum knowledge, abilities, and skills. So it is built in there, just to give you some reassurance.
And then, Chris, you mentioned that the current employees would stay at their current salary despite the audit. And so have you guys thought about what the impact would be if, you had an opening and someone applied for it and automatically went to this new rating, which might put them a little bit above someone that's been there for, a longer period of time?
Yeah, so we did have quite a bit of discussion around how would this work, and for internal promotions, you would basically have to test up and be able to pass that test to be able to get into that next level. Mm-hmm. And so the tests are being created for each utility. Will have their specific tests, and I believe there'll be some cross over depending on the level you're at, as to the GPA customer service reps would know some GWA things and vice versa.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Just a quick
I mean,
question.
Sanchez?
Part of my forgetfulness, we created the CTP law, we approved the first list. As we modify jobs within the CTP area, do we have to send this back to the legislature, or we have the power, once we adopt it, that these new positions take effect? I think they had to approve the first one, I just don't recall whether it changes to the CTP.
It's just CCU approval.
Is that installed?
We just have to post the position so that and send it to the legislature, I believe, but there's no action required on their part.
Okay, it's informative to the legislature, but unless they wanted to add it later. go through that process, which, it's an election year, they're not going to change this.
Okay, Commissioner Chapa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Chris, just real quick, the new salaries and hourly rates?
Yes.
Are those in line with the prior resolutions of meeting a certain, remember we were trying to get to a certain market penetration?
50
on the,
percentile.
Yes, they're based on the 20th percentile
The 20%, okay.
for both utilities, yeah.
I just have one thought. You know, that this is where training our people comes into play. So I would encourage that as part of this exercise, we develop training programs for our people, so that the people who are doing the job right now, who are not quite meeting the grade, can go to training to upgrade their skills. Okay? I know how you do that. I'm not an HR person. I'll leave it up to you folks.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. Anything next? No more questions? Miguel, next one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next is Resolution 25 FY 2022, and this is another tank project, court-ordered tank project relating to additional funding requested for construction management for the Santa Rosa, Sanifa, and Santa Rita tank upgrades. This project and these reservoirs were initiated at the beginning of the pandemic, and so their construction has been ongoing. However, we did experience some initial delays in getting them started, getting the contractor started. Their extension of the construction period now, in order to get all of these court-ordered tanks completed, have been affected by the pandemic, delays, global supply chain issues, and a real big slope failure at the Santa Rita tank site. If you recall, in October we had record rain, and that caused saturation of the slope near the tank site, and a portion of the slope slid down, failed, and affected an adjacent right-of-way, and it required us to stop, recalibrate, bring in some geotechnical experts to evaluate the cause and of the slope failure and what the potential solutions are. So that several month impact has required some redesign, and now that that has been completed, the contractor is working to put in the necessary protections for the slope failure, but also to reroute some of the piping and the roadway and the drainage improvements that were necessary at the site. So all those factors contributed to delays at each of these three construction sites, the slope failure being the Santa Rita site. The Santa Rosa reservoir and booster pump station has also been impacted because of supply chain issues. We won't be able to get the pump skid and generator, and that's delayed some of that work. And then on the Sanifa reservoir, the site control building is also being, the control building and some of the site work is also being pushed back to the end of 2022. So the tanks will, the Santa Rosa tank will come online before the end of the year, and so will the Sanifa tank. I think they'll be done by August, but some of the remaining work is going to get pushed out by several months. So this extended time will require an extension of the construction schedule, but also the construction management services that are required. So we're seeking additional funding for that. The fee that has been negotiated on a not-to-exceed time and materials basis is at $2.1 million, and for all three sites. And we're also seeking a 10% contingency on top of that for another $221,000. So the total requested additional funding is going to be $2.34 million, and that will take us out to the end of April in 2023, which is the anticipated completion date for I think the Santa Rita reservoir. That one's got pushed out the most. So just on, we have been negotiating with the AE consultant on this, and compared to the initial proposal, the monthly costs for CMN inspections and other related expenses for each site are lower than the original proposal by about either 16 to 22%, depending on the site. So the monthly cost we've negotiated down. However, it does result in a total overall increase in the CM fee for each site at between 48% to 72% in the case of the Santa Rosa Reservoir. So an overall increase of 63% in the CM cost for this project due to these delays. But we did negotiate the monthly cost down as best we could. And again, this is not, time and materials not to exceed, so this is the maximum amount we're expecting. But we will work throughout this process to control costs as we move forward.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Chaco?
Yeah, Miguel, I know I've brought this up several times, right, on the continuing, amendments to to these construction management contracts. But I understand all of the crazy things we've been through in the last 2 years. But at one point in time, I really like to see, this kind of get under control. It seems like we're constantly adding to, these construction management contracts, we're always amending them. So at one point in time, I think I understand the last 2 years have just been nuts, and then you have this crazy thing happen with the slope control as well. So I get it, but it just seems to happen a lot more often than it should.
I understand. We'll try to do a better job of keeping it under control.
Well,
I
no,
mean,
I think it's
there's some things that you can control, and there's some things that, like the last 2 years, you can't control that.
Yeah.
You can't control what happens with, nature, but it does come up a lot. I don't know if any of the other commissioners notice it, but these type of resolutions are very common.
Yeah. I think I share Commissioner Mzalco's concern, and I think I understand also the other part of this is that as we're going forward, we're developing better processes and better SOPs, whatever, to put these kind of deals together, these contracts together. And you've come a long way, but I agree. When you have an exception, like a slope failure, that we all understand. That's beyond your control. But better planning and better execution is where we need to go. And I think you're going there. It's a question of getting there.
I'm not even sure if it's better planning. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. Maybe just like maybe get together with the engineers and the committee, just come up with maybe you have to have like a focus meeting on how to control it. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not sure anybody does.
Yeah.
But with as common as it is, maybe just kind of like a joint action committee, just to say, okay, how is there any way you can control this? Maybe there isn't any. Maybe it's just the nature of the construction projects, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just want to know if we're just saying, okay, well, we'll not. I know you're not just saying, okay, we'll amend it. I'm just saying. Maybe we can dig a little deeper just to see if there's any opportunity to control it. And there may not be, but, a little bit of effort, not a little bit of effort, additional effort, because I know you guys are doing everything you can to control it, but maybe just get a focus group together and just see if there's any opportunity to control it.
Okay, we'll do that, and we'll keep you apprised of any results.
Okay, any other questions? No? Let's move on to your last one, right?
Yes, sir, my last one, I'm afraid also involves additional funding.
Another one?
There we go.
So this is resolution number 26.
Miguel, I'd
FY
like to just refer to my prior comment ahead of time.
The circumstances on this one are a little different, so I'll go through it anyways. Thank you, sir.
All of the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
So this is in relation to change orders for post-design services for the Northern District secondary treatment upgrades. And just to give you the background, when we did the initial design, we had the grant funding in place and our budgets were fairly tight. And when the design fee came in, we had a fixed budget for both the design and post-design services. Post-design services are services of the engineer of record during the construction period, which are also very important in addition to the construction management. In this specific instance, the AE contractor submitted their fees and they exceeded our budget, and we lopped off the post-design services so we could fit the budget because we had a funding limitation at the time that we awarded the contract. Subsequent to that, as the board is aware, we knew that we might have some cost issues on Northern District, so we allocated in our CIP a line item for completion of the Northern District wastewater treatment plant to cover both construction and related engineering costs. And so subsequent to the issuance of the contract, there was an additional authorization to slightly increase the consultant's fee based on additional design work we were giving him. So this was additional design scope. And so as of the original completion date for the plant was supposed to be December of 2021. And because of COVID delays, the construction has been pushed back. So his efforts, the original designer of records efforts, have been also extended. We've relied on him to provide additional services during that extended construction period. So the change order, the additional funding that is requested is $360 to cover that additional, $360,000 to cover the additional post-design efforts, which include a review of requests for information from the contractor, shop drawing review, the amount of structural shop drawing review that was done far exceeded what the original allotment was after we lopped off their fee. Some additional design scope, including drying beds, grading, and asphalt changes to accommodate the change to the water supply system. We couldn't negotiate a water line easement for the neighboring property owner, so we had to change that design a little bit, and it resulted in some change to the design and the grading. And then also to support SCADA communication setup and connection to our main SCADA system. So this is all additional scope that has happened in the post-design period, and that's the reason for the $360,000 request. The other thing is the solids process for the Northern District is different from, for example, the Agate Santa Rita plant. It's autothermal aerobic digestion, and so this ATAD, as it's called, is more of a high temperature process that breaks down the sludge and also allows us to add in the future fats, oil, and grease to keep it out of our sewer system, but it allows a disposal method. We can incorporate some of that into the sludge and it will break it down. And so that's part of the reason why we went with this process, because as you know, the commissioners know, we have a big problem with fats, oil, and grease in our sewer collection system. So it's a complex process, and we have asked the designer to provide training to our ops staff, because this is the first time we've implemented this technology, this process in any of our treatment plants. So there's an additional $40,000 once the process is commissioned for our guys to get some training from the design engineers and some of the manufacturers' representatives. So all of that, the $360 and the $40,000 for that extra training is the basis for the $400,000 design change that we're requesting, or the change order that we're requesting. We do have a little bit left over in the current authorized amount, so the actual increase to that we're seeking is at $317,000. So all of this work should be done by October 31st, and we do, as I mentioned, have bond funds available to cover this, as well as potentially, if we need it, SDCs.
Any questions? Oh, I have one real quick question. We had some savings on some of the other projects. Were you able to transfer those savings over to this project?
There is one outstanding transfer that we're waiting for, but yes,
So,
In general, all of the cost savings from the other projects, like the interceptor project
right,
and the outfall diffuser project, those unused portions have been reallocated to cover the remaining items, which is the Northern Guam lens, monitoring wells, and also the Northern District.
yeah. Because I remember when we sat down, Commissioner Sanchez, a long time ago with the military on this project, I remember them saying to us, this is the total amount for all three areas. Don't ask us for a penny more. But if there's something in the inside, you can move it around. I thought that was the agreement, and I'm glad we're going to be able to do that.
For the most part,
Okay.
DOD and OEA or
OEA.
now OLDCC, they have stuck to that, and
Okay,
they've been
good.
working with us.
Good. I just want to make sure. Thank you very much. Is that it?
That's it, sir.
Any questions, by the way, in this last one? No?
The only question I have is the rather broad scope of the changes. There's not, it's listed as post-design a portion, but you go from structural shop drawing changes to significant RFIs. I'm not even sure what that is, so we asked too many questions.
Well, when the contractor or the CM requires the designer of record to clarify something that the contractor has issues with in order to make sure we construct it correctly, the engineer of record is required to respond. So when we ask for their fee proposal, there's a certain effort that's estimated for responding to RFIs. As the construction progresses, if situations arise that cause additional questions, then they may get more than were anticipated. So I know it sounds broad, but there are specific questions related to specific construction items that the contractor can't proceed with until he gets clarification from the engineer of record.
So-
and in this case, some of the issues that have arisen, as I mentioned, included we had to change the way the water system was put in. We had major equipment substitution requests from the contractor, which did save us money, but it did require us to get more input from the design engineer.
So it's not just RFIs on a specific subject, but because of all the multiple changes here, there were RFIs associated with all of the multiple changes.
Right.
Okay.
That's it?
Yes, that's it for the resolutions. I'm not sure if you wanted me to go through the management report? Okay, we'll try to go quickly.
I'm going to ask to step out for a few minutes.
Sure.
Just go ahead and do the minutes. I'll read it later.
Okay, starting with the workforce availability, as of July 13th, we have out of 362 FTEs, 342 or 94.5% healthy, and then 7 employees sick but not COVID-19 related, and 3 in COVID-19 quarantine. And then 4 on military leave, and 5 employees with active cases. Our vaccination status as of July 13th, 94% fully vaccinated, and 6%, 20 employees did not receive any shots. Moving on to the production for May, we had 38.6 million gallons a day as our average production, with a total of 1.196 million kgals for the month. We had 92 deep wells active, with 17 down with grounded motors. And then for June, since this covers both May and June totals, our production rate was 38.3 million gallons a day on average, and 1.149 million for the month of June. Our number of active wells in June picked up by 2 to 94, but we still had 15 wells with grounded motors. So we're kind of struggling with the wells right now. For Tumon Maui, our production for both months was right on target at 1 MGD. So nothing out of the ordinary there. For our distribution system in May, we were at 91.1% operability with our water booster pump stations, which that held steady from the previous month. And then in June, we saw an uptick. We got some repairs done, and so we were at 94.6 operability, still in the range we want to be in. On our reservoir storage levels, we started out in May at about 35% storage, and we picked that up to about 38 to 45% storage capacity on average for both north and south. And then we kept that going for most of June, but in the north, we did see a drop, you'll notice, as we were doing some PRV-related work at the Kaiser Reservoir, and we had some issues with that caused those levels to drop. For July, we are back up to where we should be. For the wastewater collection system in May, our pump station operability was at 84%, down slightly from the prior month. And then in June, we picked that back up to 86.7% operability for the month, which is an improvement, but we're still not where we want to be with wastewater pump stations. We're working on improving our inventory levels to do pump replacements. That is also being affected by supply chain issues. On the CCTV and cleaning, for May and June, we exceeded our target of 5 miles per month. So the crews are working well on that. And then for our wastewater treatment system, in May, we had average flows for Agana and Northern at 4.16 MGD each, and a total of 9.47 MGD for all plants. And then in June, that picked up to 4.21 for Agana and 4.31 MGD for Northern, and 9.83 total for the system. In May, we had about 250,000 pounds of sludge disposed of at a cost of about $22,500. And then in June, that picked up significantly with increased operation at the solids processing at Northern District to 940,000 pounds at a cost of total cost of $84,000 for sludge disposal. For asset management,
Miguel, I never asked this question, but is the sludge disposal, is that just the tipping fee, or is that inclusive of the transportation to move it?
I think these are just the tipping fee costs.
Just the tipping fee?
Transportation costs are included just in our
operational
own expenses.
There are our own trucks.
Yeah.
And they are our own trucks, and if we have any issues with those trucks, which occasionally we do, we are forced to rent. We have some older trucks for the Agana plant that are in need of replacement or some other solution.
You own the bins, though. You own all of the other assets. It's just like a truck rental, like a roll-off truck you need to
Yeah,
rent.
right, exactly. On asset management, as of June, we were at 28% corrective maintenance work orders versus 72% preventive maintenance work orders. And then for completion on that, for the corrective maintenance, we were 94% complete, and for preventive maintenance, 87% complete. With respect to corrective maintenance for equipment versus leak repair, that split was 54% of those corrective maintenance work orders were for leak repair and 46% for equipment corrective maintenance. And the completion rates on those are 96% complete on the leaks and 94% complete on the equipment. On One Guam, there's a lot of notes here, but not too much that's worthy of comment. We are still working on an increase to the production rate for Tuma Maui and AG1. We have received no new information on that. You'll see some notes here on the OEA project, the observation wells. That project in the month of May and June ran into some difficulty advancing the monitoring well at the Jigo site. Partially due to drill rig issues and partially due to just the formation itself. And so WERI is evaluating that, and we may have to drill another hole at that location if it doesn't go down as deep as it's required to meet the needed monitoring for the aquifer. However, general status, we have completed 3 new wells and 1 rehabilitation well on DOD property. There's 1 more of those, and 4 more new wells to go. There was some discussion or request for information from DOD through the One Guam process of how we're handling some of our granular activated carbon and various costs and disposal issues associated with that. I guess they're having issues with their own water supply on PFAS, and so they're starting to do some planning, and we're looking for some additional information. So we are assisting them with that. We also have made a request to DOD to provide a backup water supply from their water line near the new Northern District plant. Really, because we weren't able to negotiate that easement to bring in water from Route 3, we just want to make sure we have an alternate supply. And so that is on the table with DOD, and they're taking a look at it. That process has been initiated. And some other information on Route 5. DOD is planning to put in some piping to connect in the future to GWA's wastewater system. So that work is, they're trying to get that done before DPW goes in and repaves that roadway. So that's a positive development. And we're still carrying on our discussions about negotiating a water and wastewater agreement, essentially renewing the contract with the DOD for all of the sites that GWA services. So those contracts are ongoing, and the CFO has been involved and will continue to be involved as we move forward. Court order summary, no changes here. As you know, 97.8% complete. We're still trying to knock out the tank projects, and we won't get to 100% until we get that done. We did have a list of SSOs for May and month of June up to July 1st. Those are listed here. Santa Rita, Tamuning, Dedido, and a couple down south, one near in Jotnya, and one here on in Manila. Land issues, we have made some progress on the Ascent Springs, and you'll see that outlined in red. There has been a public meeting that was held in April, and as of June, Park Service has not received any public comments regarding that public meeting or any of the proposed actions to fulfill. This is to fulfill the NEPA requirements so we can move forward with the rehabilitation project at the Ascent Springs. So the biological assessment report and environmental assessment report are in process. And then finally, for the management report, just our standard leak summary, and we are still we're doing better at the end of June. We're down to less than 15 outstanding leak work orders at the end of the day. And then, Chris, you want to go through the receivables?
Sure. The active residential customer accounts receivables due greater than 60 days. There's been a slight uptick over the last 2 months for the accounts and the amounts owed, but we're still tracking lower than pre-COVID levels. So that is a positive aspect of it. We continue to work towards those collections. On the commercial side, it's leveled off. The amounts owed around 80K, but the number of accounts has increased over the last couple months. And the amounts owed and the accounts are around the same amounts pre-COVID, and the amount owed is still lower than pre-COVID.
Commissioners, in your packet, you should find the full submission for May and June, and would like to go through a summary of that information. The first slide we're seeing is our key financial indicators. Our debt service coverage at the end of June was at 1.26. We have transferred $3.45 million from our rate stabilization fund to help shore that up. This comes from the 5.3 total authorization. We're in the process of projecting where we're going to be at the end of the fiscal year to determine whether or not we'll need additional authorization. As you might be aware, we were banking on having the PUC review our rates prior to, well, I guess prior to this fiscal year, but it looks like at this point, the hearing will be held in September, although we don't have any formal notice at this point. The other interesting thing is our month-to-month demand has been going up. However, compared to last fiscal year, year-to-date, we're slightly down. Although we're seeing increases in our commercial demand, it's not sufficient to offset the decreases in our residential as people go back to school and go back to work. The next sheet is is a picture of our income statement. June 22 was our best month over the last 12 months in terms of operating revenues, but we also saw an uptick in our operating expenses, ending the month with $1.1 million in net operating income. The next couple of slides show by rate class water revenue. Again, although residential is by far the largest contribution to our revenues, we are seeing it slightly less than last year as our contributions from our commercial accounts have been increasing. So that's a picture of our revenue, and then the next picture is our demand, which is pretty much mirrors the revenues. With regard to our wastewater, as you see, because we bill our residential on a flat rate, their contribution is smaller for wastewater than water. And if you go to the next slide, the demand for wastewater, or the flows for wastewater, mirror the water demand. Going on to expenses, we did see an increase of about $6.7 million year-to-date compared to last year, and more than half of the increase has come from our power purchases, or 3.6.
Who's running it?
So we need to have a LEAC rate on our bills. And then the next slide just shows our water demand in blue, our wastewater flows in red against our revenues. Generally, the peaks are when we get our Navy payments and our revenues. And then the next slide just separates water and wastewater. And the following slide shows revenues and collections. And then this AR slide, slightly different from what Chris presented. This shows it broken down by aging, and the part on the left shows the picture with inactive accounts, and the one on the right without the inactive account. And then our last slide shows our debt service coverage. Our capitalized interest for our 2020 bond will be all used up this year, and so we'll be seeing an increase in our cash out of 5.6 that will go towards interest. Say again?
That increase comes in. We are debt service. Current annual debt.
Around 39 million?
Yeah.
39.
I just wanted to mention a couple things before I close out. So you might have read that the local Deloitte office will be disassociating from the Deloitte National Office. So we had to go out and rebid our audit. That came in last week, and we're hoping to, there was only one proposal, and we're hoping to review that sometime next week with the OPA. You might have also noticed that there was a bill introduced in which the OPA wants to have greater control over the audits and in that bill, it's requiring that the autonomous agencies fund the audits, but provide the money to the OPA for them to pay the auditor instead of the contract being with.
What will that change? I mean, doesn't the OPA have a significant role
They do, and
in the
yeah.
audits already? I don't
Right.
understand what,
Yeah, it's a little confusing. One of the things that was put out in the paper, I think they were quoting Senator Brown, was that because the auditors, if the OPA had control, they could more timely issue the audits. But, in my mind, it does make sense for the auditors and the agencies to work together to ensure that they address the findings, take the time you need so that as long as you meet the deadlines, to get the best audit that you can, and to prematurely end the audit, to me, does a disservice, to the agency, and to the government. So it's, we have draft testimony that I think we're going to share with the chair before we send it out.
I mean, from our point of view, we didn't think it was broken, right? And
Yeah.
we're on time. We're still paying for it. In fact, I started to wonder, is the OPA, what I like about the current situation is the OPA is truly independent of the independent procurements by
Right.
the utilities, in our case, for their independent auditor, versus now he's the one hiring them. And I mean, we have a good auditor, but you do want to avoid a situation where that the public auditor could be in cahoots with the auditor of the utility, and the utility is sort of innocent other than it's paying the tab. I think the current structure allows the OPA to rule as they see fit, good, bad, or ugly.
And they have.
And which they have, and versus, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. They're sort of trying to cure something that, at least from our point of view, it isn't broken. We're on time, we pay for it, and OPA reviews our audit. So, but as some of us know downtown, sometimes we scratch our head, even when we're in there. So, okay, I mean, you're going to comment on that it's not necessary for the utilities, or?
Right.
We're not sure what's broken.
Well, and, I think the concern, I guess, with our bond covenants is that the territory has agreed to, stay out of,
The management of the utilities.
Yeah, and this actually kind of, to me, creates a potential conflict for the OPA if they're also hiring the auditors, whereas right now they have true strict independence, and we're all accountable. I mean, if they want to maybe they can pass a lot of spank us for being late, but to just have it dumped all back onto the OPA, I'm not sure that's the right solution. So, but we'll defer to you guys in your testimony, but
We'll circulate the draft.
yeah.
and the other thing I wanted to mention is we have been contacted by Fitch. They're doing their annual surveillance, and we should get a draft sometime tomorrow, hopefully not too late in the day.
Go ahead, after.
Just curious, who's responsible for procurement to source the auditor? Is it still the utility?
Right,
And-
so currently what we do is we put out the RFP, and then with a lot of, we circulate the RFP to the OPA, and they have, the ability to comment. They actually have provided a template, which we have updated, but we're the ones who put it out. And then what happens with the evaluation is they sit on the committee to evaluate the successful bidder, and then.
The OPA?
Yeah,
OPA has a rep? Okay.
right.
Right, but the new law, is it?
The new law,
The bill, is the OPA now in charge of procuring the auditors?
well, it's a bill, and so I would assume that they would do it entirely because we would give them the money and they would be the ones in charge.
Yeah, see, so they have to fund an entire procurement office and everything, and all,
Right.
it just
It's
adds
more,
costs. Just makes it more costly.
To be honest with you, I think the concern revolves more around the general government, because their financial management system is so outdated that that's what's always holding everything up. Because I think Those are good sometimes.
Yeah, the delay in our issuance and the audit generally is around the OPEB, the report for post-employment benefits, as well as the unfunded liability.
Which
the
we don't
retirement fund.
create.
We can't
And
control.
Because it's so significant, it has a material effect on our financial statements.
Mm-hmm.
We can't issue the statements until those reports are due. And so in the last, I think since I've been here, that's kind of what's delayed.
Yeah,
the
I think
issuance of the
those
audit.
are the two things that really mess up the GovGuam-wide audit that he tries to put out.
It's even ours. I mean, maybe that's what the law should focus. The law should focus on making the OPEB is out on time so we can
Yeah.
close the books. That,
Yeah.
And what's interesting is it's generally based on the last fiscal year, so they could start, they
Yeah.
could theoretically
Yeah,
start
there's a-
working on it.
Okay.
and then I apologize, and maybe we can do this offline, but can you remind this aging commissioner, how do we fund the rate protection fund, right?
The rate
The rate
stabilization.
stabilization fund.
So,
Could you give him an email on that one, so we don't
Yeah,
have...
if you want, just a
Okay,
short
I'll do
summary.
that.
I imagine we grab something off, cash off our balance sheet from some account, and that's what we're
Yeah.
using to fund, especially, it's the unfortunate challenge right now is we're not getting a rate decision from the PUC in a timely manner, and it's forcing you to, but you've done a good job of saying, let's have a little protection money, or, set aside, and that's what you're always coming to us to say, hey, in the absence of a rate adjustment, we have a need. I'm just trying to remind myself, how did we fund that from, one of our balance sheet, I'm sure one of our balance sheet accounts has cash in it.
It was one of the reserves, but
One
yeah.
of the reserves?
we can do the
Just
details.
send me a
I'll
note.
send you.
Just send me a note. That'd be perfect, thank you.
We can send it to all of us.
Even better.
Even
yes,
better.
Please.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
That's it, sir.
that's it? Anything else, Commissioners, for
Not
Waterworks?
Not for water, Mr. Chair, but, I know we're going to go right into power. Just thinking that at the commission level, we have lost our vice chairman.
Yeah.
And that maybe on Tuesday's agenda add, I don't know, just move
Well,
the four of us
I was
up or
going to
something.
talk about that right offline when we...
We should, I'm suggesting we just put it on Tuesday's agenda.
I don't know.
We can all talk about it.
Can we amend the agenda? Okay, we'll put it on.
That's okay.
That's
with
fine,
the body.
that's fine.
Sorry, one other thing.
What?
Relating to the upcoming Friday holiday. The GPAGM and I did discuss it. Our understanding of your mandate to us is to make sure our customers receive the service that they need. And so preliminarily, we are preparing to leave the customer service centers open with minimum crew in order to provide that service. And if
That's
the
for
GP
Friday.
This is for this Friday.
Yeah.
I'm sure the GPAGM will pose the same question, and so it's just, if you still want us to walk down that path, or if you wanted a change, just let us know. But right now,
And do
we need to make that decision. We're looking at minimum crew half day at
And do we pay additional holiday pay for that, even though it's not a formal government holiday?
it is a declared,
It's a formal holiday.
Declared because the governor declared. it.
Executive order.
So there's an additional cost to the ratepayers for us, but we keep the service, I know the private sector's not taking Friday off. So it doesn't surprise me that customers, actually, that's probably a good day for some customers,
Right.
especially if you're a government employee, if you need to see us.
so we're thinking only Upper Tumon, or?
Yeah, we discussed Upper Tumon from 8 to 12 noon. If we were going to open any other centers, probably
For the
the
end.
other one, but for sure.
This is a discussion that's going on between the two GMs, right?
Yeah, and the AGMAs, but yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we just wanted to get your sense
Yeah.
of that, so he's gonna bring it up, I think.
Yeah.
But my impression is you're informing us, you're not asking us.
No, he's asking if we want
want
to
us to authorize
keep
it.
going with that
We're in-
protocol.
No,
We've
I
done
know.
this in the past.
I'm with you, Mr.
And,
President.
I think, I believe that the concern the commission had is to be able to provide service to our customers.
Right.
And when they have an executive order that declares a holiday, nobody plans for that. So sometimes we make arrangements to do things, and then we have to tell our customer, forget it, we're going to do it again later. So that was the concern. I think we still have that concern. But we're going to leave it up to you folks how to
Yeah.
address that.
I mean, that may be to me, it's become sort of our standing policy. We're aware of it, it happens.
Yeah.
But our approach is Because it sounds like exactly what management's
Yeah.
proposing to do, is to
Yeah,
stay open
keep
for-
doing it.
for the ratepayers.
Keep doing what we're doing.
And it just costs us some more money, but
Yeah.
that's the nature of that piece. Right.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Nothing? Adjourn.
Hey, Primo, you back?
Huh? Yeah. Okay.